Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Ready for Rome orientation webinar. My name is Shelley Ruel, and I'm the ItaliaPass community manager, and I'm joined today by Sofia Bragaglia, who is ItaliaPass Italy experience specialist. And we're going to share some information with you today about coming to Rome so that you can feel more comfortable during your visit, and both of us have a lot of experience here in Italy. I've lived in Rome for, since 2001, so coming up on 25 years. And Sophia is originally from Italy, so between the both of us, we have quite a bit of knowledge and experience to share with you today. So we'll go ahead and get started. First of all, I wanted to quickly just go over what is Italia Pass because many of you are probably here because you purchased train tickets with Italia Rail, which is just one of many brands. It's kind of the Italia family of brands that have worked with millions of tourists since the late 1980s visiting Italy. And our CEO decided that he wanted to provide all of his clients with a way to have the best trip to Italy ever, bringing together a lot of different benefits and savings. And so that's how Italia Pass came about. It's a travel benefits pass. It costs $149 and brings you over $650 in value. And the reason I mention it is because we will be talking a little bit about Italia Pass benefits in case that's something that might enhance your Italy trip. There's also a free Italia Pass community, which is what I manage online. And you can come on over there anytime and ask any questions you have about your Italy travels, and we will get you some answers. So, what are we going to cover today? Briefly, this is what we're going to go over. It'll take about a half an hour to go through this information. First, we'll talk about how to get into the city from FCO, which is Fiumicino Airport, also known as Leonardo da Vinci Airport. And then we'll tell you about the Italia Pass Lounge in case that's something that would interest you at Termini Station. I'll explain a little brief overview of how to get around on public transport, as well as some local customs with eating out here in the restaurants and how to avoid some of the most common tourist traps. And then Sophia will go over how you can get complimentary access to some of the most famous monuments and galleries in Italy, as well as $100 off of an Italia tour experience. I'll wrap it up with a couple of my favorite local tips, and then at the very end, we'll open it for 15 minutes to any questions that you have live. We'll do that through a chat function, so you'll see the Q&A icon on the bottom of your screen. You can just type in your question at any time, and we will answer those at the end. So as we go through our presentation, feel free to type questions. We won't be answering raised hands or anything like that. We'll just save all the questions for the end and go through them one by one. So without further ado, I will pass it over to Sophia to give you information about how to get into the city from the airport.
Thank you, Shelley, and hello, everyone. Thank you again for joining us today. So yeah, we can get started. Now you've landed at FCO Airport, and you'll have a few options to get to the center of Rome from here. As you see on the slide, they're all indicated in the terminal, so it's very easy to navigate. The first option is, of course, the train. So there's a train station within FCO. And there are two types of trains that you can take from there to reach the center of the city. One is called Leonardo Express, which is a direct train to Termini Station. That's the main station in Rome. It's around $18 on Italiarail. It counts as a regional train, as opposed to high-speed trains that are the second type of trains you can find in Italy. And I would say it's the most common train that people usually get to go to Rome from FCO, of course. The other type is just, it doesn't really have a name, it's just a regional train. And it's very similar to the Leonardo Express, except that it takes you to different stations. So it goes to Trastevere and Ostiense. It's a bit cheaper, it's around 10, maybe $12 on Italiarail. And both trains are considered regional trains, so really the only difference is where you're supposed to go. Depending on where you are in the city, where you're staying, you might prefer one over the other. We generally get a lot of questions on whether or not you should book your tickets in advance. And I do recommend booking them before your arrival. Especially if you're traveling during high season, that's usually May to October-ish. The queues can get very long, the servers can get overwhelmed. So I would just make sure that you book them before so that you can have the ticket for the best departure time for you. However, do be careful. Leonardo Express tickets are time specific. So just, make sure that you calculate your arrival time and your travel time fairly specifically. That time, I would say, my advice would be for the Leonardo Express or any train out of FCO, I would wait at least an hour and a half to 2 hours after your scheduled landing time. And definitely nothing out of, let's say, Termini, if you're traveling to another city from, like, I don't know, Naples, Florence, maybe. Um, Definitely nothing out of Termini to other cities within 3 hours of arrival. This is just, in case of delays or if there's any luggage issues, any, airport problems that can arise. So yeah, any unforeseen event, you'll want to have that extra buffer time, I would say. So that's it for trains. The other options, as you can see on the slide, are taxis that you can take outside the terminal. Um, they have a fixed rate of 55 euros, so that's fairly handy. Or you can take a shuttle bus, or you can book a private transfer with us. Our private transfers can take you straight to your accommodation in Rome, or again, if you're trying to go to the train station, we can take you there. Anywhere in Rome, we can do essentially. You can book it on Italia Tours on the Italia Tours website, or if you have any questions about our drivers or the service itself, just feel free to reach out to an Italy experience specialist like myself, and we'll be happy to help you. Next up, we have should I rent a car? So, this is a question that comes up quite a bit. I would say there's no universal answer, but I can give you some pointers to help you decide. I would say the golden rule is if you know you're going to be exploring some, let's say, some remote areas of Italy, some famous ones, some popular destinations can be the Tuscan countryside or the Amalfi Coast. Um, in these cases, renting a car is a great idea, I would say, just because public transport is a bit more limited in those locations. So having a car can be make things easier just for exploration. But if you're not going to a remote area, if you know you're only going to be visiting the main cities, um, I would not recommend booking a car. This is just because the best way to navigate in between cities, especially as I mentioned, major cities, is by train. There's a high-speed network that connects most of them. And once you're inside the cities, they usually have fairly strict car traffic rules. So it can be very tricky to, get a permit to enter certain areas, find parking, just operating the car within the city walls is something that Italians also struggle with. So if you're there for a short time, I would just not recommend that experience. Regardless, if you do decide to rent a car, you can do so on our platform, Italia Drive. And as a member, you would benefit from a 10 euro discount, which you can redeem after booking by contacting us. Next up, we have the lounge. This is another perk of being a member. The Italia Pass Lounge is our lounge in Rome. It is located within Roma Termini, which is the station I mentioned before. And it's just a great place to hang out. If you have some free time before boarding a train, or if you're waiting for your hotel check-in time, you're welcome to come and visit us. We have free Wi-Fi, espresso, refreshments. We also offer free luggage storage for your, any carry-ons or larger bags that you might have. And we have some lovely, lovely hosts that can answer any questions you might have about your upcoming trips or just your stay in Rome in general. So yeah, we're ready to welcome you at any time. All you need to do is book your complimentary visit beforehand so that we know that you're coming. And now I'll hand it over to Shelley for some information on public transport within the city.
Thank you. So this is the public transport in Rome. It's called ATAC. That's the company name. Now, Rome is a very walkable city. It's quite easy to get around. It's a relatively small historic center. So, if you don't have mobility issues, you can get around easily by walking, especially now that it's not high season and it's not so hot anymore. However, public transport can come in handy if you're tired or if you want to go a longer distance across the city. So, I wanted to give you a few pointers about how to ride public transport and how it works. That way, when you get here, if you feel like you want to try it out, then you'll feel more confident about how it works. So the way our system is set up is quite simple, actually. It's mostly buses. We do have a subway system, but it's extremely simple compared to other large cities. It only has two lines, A line and B line. Technically, there's a third, but you probably won't run into that because it goes kind of on the outskirts of the city. And it only crosses at one point. The lines only intersect at Termini train station, which is the station we've mentioned already a couple times. That's Rome's main transport hub. So if you want to change from line A to line B, the only place you can do that is by getting off at Termini. So that's quite easy. You don't need to worry about a bunch of different lines or stations. You just have to think about that one, and that's how you switch lines. There are a few trams, so there's like above ground kind of streetcars. You will maybe not see many of those. Maybe line 8 that goes to Piazza Venezia is the one that you may use. But mainly you're going to be using buses and perhaps the subway system. So the tickets are relatively inexpensive compared to large other European cities. They cost €1.50 and they are time limited. So your ticket allows you to have unlimited rides on public transport for 100 minutes starting from the first ride. So starting from the time that you validate your ticket or purchase your ticket or board the subway. And then it's good for unlimited rides for 100 minutes with one exception. It's only good for one subway ride. The ride can be as long as it needs to be within that time frame. However, once you exit the station, you can't ride again, even if you have minutes left in that 100-minute time. You can't ride the subway again. You'd have to purchase another ticket. Now, the easiest way to get a ticket is with Tap and Go. All the buses that I've seen now have Tap and Go, as well as the subway system has it. Tap and Go is just you use a contactless payment method. So if you have a contactless credit or debit card, or if you have on your smartphone Apple Pay or those types of payment systems, then you just tap on the reader. It beeps. If you're at the subway, the turnstile, you walk right through. If you're on a bus, you just tap it on a reader. The difference is that on buses, no one checks your tickets to get on. It's kind of an honor system. So when you get on the bus, you'll tap your contactless payment method, and the only time you would be asked to show a ticket is if an inspector got on the bus. They do random checks. So just keep that in mind because in other European cities, some of them you have to get on where the driver is. Sometimes drivers sell tickets. In Rome, you won't have any contact with the driver. So the driver doesn't sell tickets and doesn't check tickets. One thing to keep in mind if you do use the Tap and Go system is you do have to have a separate payment method for each rider because that payment method counts as your ticket. So one card or one smartphone payment system for every single rider, because in the event that an inspector checks on the bus, every single person would need to show an individual payment. That's not relevant on the subway in terms of checking because you have to pass through the turnstile to board the metro. So no one checks tickets on the metro because everyone has to validate that they have a ticket to get in. Now, tickets are called biglietto. If you want to purchase a ticket within the city, the way that you can purchase tickets, like paper tickets, is at machines in the metro stations and throughout the city at places called tabaccheria, which are tobacconists. You can identify those because above the door there's a little sign with a T, or at newsstands. So you would just simply ask for a biglietto, maybe get two, one for going and one for coming back. You could just keep these on you. If you don't have contactless payment method, or you think you're going to be in a place where they're not going to have Tap and Go, although I haven't really seen any of the older buses that don't have it. All the buses I've been on this Jubilee year, which we'll talk about later on, has brought a lot of upgrades to the city, including on the public transport system. Last but not least, I wanted to mention a particular bus route for you, both for the fact that it's very convenient for visitors and also just to kind of have a small caution for you as a visitor. So bus line 64 is extremely convenient because it starts and ends at Termini Station and crosses all the way to the Vatican and back. So basically, with that one route, you can hit most of the main tourist points. That being said, and this is probably more relevant during high season, we're in low season now, so you're going to have the benefit of being in Rome when there's not so many tourists. So crowds aren't going to be as much of a problem as they would say in July. However, it's still good to take precautions on this bus and in any crowded areas for pickpockets. Now, I don't want to worry you. Sometimes on social media, you'll see things like, oh, pickpockets, you're going to get pickpocketed in Rome. I've been here over 20 years. I've never been pickpocketed. It's because I'm just attentive to my belongings. When I go around, I look like I know where I'm going. I have my hand on on my purse or across like a crossbody bag. Men, if you're carrying wallets, just make sure that you know where they're at. Keep them in a place where it's not easy, like maybe in your front pocket instead of your back pocket. The pickpockets are quite good at their at their work, unfortunately. So, but that becomes most of an issue when you're in a crowd where people are jostling, because it's easier for them to pickpocket without you feeling it. But if you are attentive to your surroundings and make sure that you watch, who's around you and you have your belongings secured, I I can tell you it's not going to be an issue because they will target the easy targets. They are not going to target somebody who knows like who looks like they know where they're going and what's going on around them. So don't let that be a concern. Rome is a very safe city. Petty crime is as much a problem here as it would be in any large city. So just take the regular precautions that you would in any other major metropolitan area. Okay, next we're going to talk about the fun stuff of eating out. I know that you're going to enjoy the delicious food we have here in Rome. And I want to make sure that you get an authentic experience and also are aware of a couple of local customs that may be a little different than what you're used to. We do tend to eat later than, say, your typical dining out times in like the US or Canada. We tend to eat lunch anywhere from 1 to 1:30 starting time, and dinners generally starts around 8 or 8:30. The reason I tell you that is because most of the most authentic Roman restaurants for locals, they may not be open before that for meals. It doesn't mean that you won't be able to eat outside of those times. There's plenty of restaurants that are open all day long, but most of the very local Roman restaurants for locals are gonna adhere to those times. The reason that I wrote check on the bullet point list here is because, and by the way, if you want to practice your Italian, check is il conto. You can ask for il conto, and you will have to ask, and that's what I want to bring up here. Locally, it's not the custom to leave your check on your table unless you ask for it or until you ask for it. And the reason for that is because locally in the culture here, going out to eat is a time to spend quality time with your friends and family. So the wait staff doesn't want to make you feel rushed. And so they will wait for you to ask them. So I just say that because I don't want you to think that, sometimes people say, oh God, the service is so slow. They're not bringing my check. No, they're doing that purposely because they don't want you to feel rushed. So whenever you're ready to leave, then you can indicate to them that you are ready for the check and they will happily bring it to you. As far as tipping goes, that is a very common question that we do get. It's the simple answer is you are not required to tip. It's really not in the culture to tip at restaurants. Certainly not the way that we would, for example, in the United States, like a 20% tip. Wait staff here makes a salary. They do not work for tips, so you don't need to worry about tipping. You can leave a courtesy tip if you feel like you got great service or you want to. Typically, though, that wouldn't really be more than €1 per person, but it's certainly not required. So I tell you that because if you end up in a restaurant, where maybe they work more with tourists and try to make you think that tipping is in the culture here, it's not, and it's not expected and it's not required. So just keep that in mind. And then about the gelato and restaurants, these are two areas where there's a couple of tourist traps I want to point out to you. Let's start with gelato. So you see that photo in the bottom right. Gelato that you're going to see like this maybe in the more touristy downtown areas. It's like really puffed up and like over the top of the tub. It looks pretty spectacular, but it's actually a sign that they've whipped a lot of air into it. And if you're at a very authentic gelato shop, that gelato is generally never going to come up into a mountain like you see there. At most, it will be flush with the top of the tub. Or in some cases, you may not even see the gelato. It might be in a tub that has a cover on it, and that's absolutely authentic. So watch out for that. And also, if it's really bright colors, obviously that's a sign of artificial food coloring, which they would not use in an authentic gelato shop. They use actual fruit, and whatever the natural fruit color is what your gelato color is going to be. Restaurants, I would watch out for menus with pictures. Obviously, Romans don't need pictures because they know what their food looks like. So, if you do see menus with pictures, that's a sure sign that it's not for the locals. And what I call promoters, if you see people out front trying to usher people in, trying to get you off of the street to come into the restaurant, that's certainly for tourists and not for locals. Locals know where the good places are to eat that they like, and they don't need somebody in there trying to usher them in. Now, that being said, are you going to get a terrible meal in these places? Probably not. However, it's not where locals will go, and I'm sure that when you come here, you're going to want to taste what authentic Roman food tastes like. So those are a couple red flags, if you will, to watch out for. Speaking of authentic Roman food, Sophia's going to tell you about a way that you can actually try it in a really nice environment.
Thank you, Shelley. So yeah, next up we have our latest member benefit from Italia Pass, which is Italia Dine. The idea behind this experience was to get fellow travelers around the dinner table for a Roman family style feast, which, as we were saying, is something that you'll want to take advantage of, since Roman food, Italian food in general, but I would say Roman food is to die for, generally speaking. So, um, yeah, we have this event. It's hosted by a passionate local who can answer any questions that you might have about the food that you'll eat, or the local food related traditions, which there's quite a few of, and any question that you might have about Rome in general, they will be happy to tell you about, essentially. So far the reviews have been great, so we've been adding more and more seatings for each session. It is free for Italia Pass holders, but it can also be booked separately for only $49 per person if you do not have an Italia Pass. As per usual, the experience can be booked through the links that are provided for in either our Italia Rail or Italia Pass emails. Or if you cannot locate the link, feel free to reach out to support at italiapass.com and we will be happy to get it set up for you. Now, getting into the sites, of course, for all the exciting sites that you'll get to see while you're in Rome. Starting off, we have the Colosseum, of course. Italia Pass members do get one free tour of the Colosseum. It features exclusive access to the arena through the iconic Gladiators Gate, and it is a fully guided tour. So if you haven't seen the Colosseum yet, or if you're just going back to Rome, you've already seen it. It's the Colosseum. Every time I visit Rome, I have to at least pass it by. And since it's a free tour, I would recommend taking advantage of it. Um, we also offer other guided tours of the Vatican, as well as walking tours of the rest of the heart of Rome. Usually, those include areas like Piazza Navona, the Spanish Steps, the Trevi Fountain, of course. So, yeah, if you're in Rome for at least 2 full days, I would recommend, and if you're interested in seeing all of these, I would recommend taking a look at our Rome Tour Pass, which it's a tour bundle essentially. It includes everything that I've just mentioned, and it's usually the easiest solution if you're not spending too much time in Rome, but you're also, again, usually we recommend at least 2 days just to make sure you're able to cover all of those attractions. Um, and yeah, it's usually the best deal for that type of scenario. Regardless if you choose that tour or another one of our tours, please know that our members get $100 off of their first tour booking and 10% off of any subsequent tours. So definitely make sure to look into that. You can book any of these experiences on italiatours.com, or again, feel free to email us. We're always happy to help. The one thing that I would recommend is I would advise you to book these experiences, especially the Vatican and the Colosseum, as soon as you can, as soon as you know which dates you'll have for Rome. Just go ahead and, get them booked because there's fairly limited space. And of course, they're very popular attractions. So we want to make sure that you get a chance to visit them. But we do need some time to get the reservations set up. Um, we also get some frequent questions about the dress code for these locations. And a general rule is that if you'd like to visit the Vatican or any major churches, you'll need to wear clothes that will cover both your shoulders and knees. This is especially true for the Vatican, but I would say it goes for most churches. Some will even provide little cloaks that you can borrow, but not all of them. So if you can, make sure to come prepared for that. Um, you also won't be able to bring any large backpacks or strollers into the Vatican or the Colosseum. Some other places might accept them, but especially the Vatican and the Colosseum, they will not allow them at all. So if you can get a crossbody bag or just something smaller, that would be perfect. It'll go. Um, and especially for the Colosseum, the dress code is whatever you're comfortable with. There's no real rule. And now for Italy Magazine, we also wanted to mention this special offer, which is it's a free access to a special Vatican City edition of Italy Magazine. Italy Magazine is one of our partner brands. As the name suggests, it's a magazine dedicated to all things Italy. This specific edition will give insider tips into visiting the Vatican and the iconic landmarks within it during this very special year, which is the year of the Jubilee, which is now coming to a close. But since since you will be traveling soon, if you want to learn if you would just want to look into the history of the Vatican and again, just learn more about the highlights before you actually get to visit and see them, uh, definitely make sure to check this out. It is crafted for first-time visitors as well as anyone who's already been to the Vatican. So I would just recommend taking a look at just as as a refresher before you go into the city. And it's very easy to access. You'll just have to fill out a brief survey, and you can find all of the information in the community. So, yeah. Now back to Shelley for some local tips.
Thank you. So I'm going to wrap up the informational part of our webinar here with a few of my favorite local tips that I always tell friends and family when they're coming. The first one is how you can refill your water bottle very easily without having to use disposable plastic bottles. Rome has a local tradition or phenomenon of these water fountains that you see in the photo. They're called nasoni, which means big noses because of the way the spigot looks, and just kind of a local nickname for these water fountains. And they're really unique because, as you see in the photo, the water just runs continuously. You don't have to turn them on or off. It comes from a deep underground spring. It comes out cold. And so it's super convenient, easy when you're walking around downtown to just fill up your water bottle, refill it. If you stop by our lounge, you'll get a free gift of a water bottle to take around with you. So it will be perfect for staying hydrated and not having to buy plastic bottles or spend money because sometimes they're really expensive downtown. Um, but I have on a resource list that I'm going to email you along with a recording of this webinar. Um, there is a smartphone app that the local water utility has developed in which there's a map and it shows the location of there's thousands of these water fountains. And so that's kind of cool. You could look on your smartphone and figure out where the nearest Nazone is for you to get your water refill. Oh, and last local tip there. If you don't have a bottle, but you still want to drink out of the water fountain and you don't want to just like cup your hands under the water, You can actually, this is what locals do. You can actually plug the fountain with your thumb. You don't see it here, but there's a little tiny hole on the top of the spigot. So when you plug the flow, it starts to spray out the top like an arc, like a water fountain. You can just bend down and drink straight from the fountain. Romans do that. However, do be careful that you don't that you look at people walking by because if you plug it and it starts to spray and you're not ready, you might shoot somebody coming by. So that is a very local tip. But yeah, the water is completely drinkable and fresh and cold. So next tip is aperitivo time. You may or may not know about this tradition. You may know that iconic drink in the photo that you see there on the right. It's called an Aperol Spritz. Very famous aperitivo drink. Aperitivo is like a pre-dinner drink and snack. It can be a drink that's mildly, like has a very low alcohol content, like Aperol, um, or like a Prosecco, for example, a glass of Prosecco. Or it can just simply be a non-alcoholic, like a Coke or a lemon soda, Fanta, or even we have a local non-alcoholic aperitivo drink here in Rome called Crodino. In any case, it's a fun tradition. It starts, I would say, 6:30-ish, like pre-dinner time. This one you see in the photo is at a place called Meccanismo, and the reason I featured is because it has a really abundant, you can see it has a really abundant selection of like finger foods that they'll bring out to you. You don't choose them, they kind of chef's choice and they bring it out. But even if you don't go to a place like this that has kind of aperitivo happy hour time, you could go to any coffee bar around aperitivo time and just tell them, like, we want an aperitivo, maybe a glass of Prosecco or an Aperol Spritz, and they will generally give you the drink with some like snacks. So it could range from something as simple as a little bowl of potato chips and peanuts. Sometimes they'll heat up what's called pizzettes, so these little like mini pizzas. So it's fun. It's a fun local tradition that you could try. So I would encourage you to try that out. So that's it for our information. Like I said, I have your email address because you registered for this webinar. So what I'm going to do is tomorrow, it'll be early Italia time. So you'll be getting it tomorrow. By the time you wake up, you'll have it. You'll have an email with links to the resources I've talked about, like a nice resource list, a recap of the Q&A we're about to host, and also a link to the recording of this webinar. But if you want to look at the webinar, if you want to look over it before you get the email, we post these on our YouTube channel. It's Italia Pass, it's at YouTube, so you'll find all the recordings there. And so at this point, what I'll do is I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and we will open it up for questions. If you go down to your where you see on the screen Q&A, and you can just type your questions in there. We already have one from James. He's asking, is Uber an option from the airport? Yeah, I believe so. I've never tried Uber from the airport, but if you have the Uber app, I'm assuming that they could come up to the terminal. Probably a taxi is probably going to cost less, but I don't see why Uber wouldn't be able to. Now that Uber app here in Rome has actually taxis incorporated into it as well, so you could actually compare pricing. So yeah, we do have Uber, and in Rome we also, I believe we also have Lyft. So if you have either of those, you should be able to get a ride. And you can pay also taxis. I know obviously with Uber you pay with you pay with your card, but just in case you were wondering, you can pay for taxis with a card too. And I didn't mention this, tipping. Sometimes people are curious, do I need to tip my taxi driver? That's not really a custom here either. So if you're paying with cash, it's courteous to round up to the next euro. So if it's like 11.25, you would round it up to 12 so the driver doesn't need to make change, but you can pay with a card. I'll let you take the next one, asking
Absolutely.
about the pass.
So yeah, Casey's asking benefit of companion pass versus the full pass. The main difference between a companion's pass and a regular Italia pass is in the discounts that you'll get. So full members get $50 off of their first rail order, unless it's a full pass that's purchased through Italia Rail directly. At that point, we just discount the pass in the card directly, and $100 off of your first store. That's for full members. Companions get all the other benefits essentially. They get the 10% for tours, the $5 off of rail, all the other benefits, all the other experiences that we have, like the free Colosseum tour, the free entry to the Accademia, Uffizi, all of that. It's just the $100 for the tour and the 50 for the rail. That's the main difference.
All right, the next one is, are tips expected for your guides? Yeah, I would say that that's an area where tips are appreciated. I think the rule of thumb is what I would say 10 on like a half day tour, anything from half day or less. Is that generally what you've heard as well, Sophia?
Just about, yeah,
So
between
would
10
it
and
be like
20.
10 if it were like two people? Would it be 10 for both or 10 per? I think it's like 10 for your group
I'm
or is
not
it 10 per
sure actually.
person? Yeah.
I think it might. Then again, it's not really, compulsory. It's just something that
Exactly.
people do
It's kind of
sometimes.
more, yeah, it's kind of more rule of like you can kind of decide. I would say, 10 is a general rule of thumb. I would even if it were me and another person, that would be fine. But if you want to give more, I mean, obviously that's going to be appreciated by your guides. If it's a longer tour, a day-long tour, then I would go higher, obviously. So yeah. The bus 64, you say, goes from Termini to Vatican. Where at the Vatican is the bus station? We are staying across from Vatican City. Thank you. You know what? I don't, off the top of my head, I can't remember exactly where the actual stop is. Um, I will look that up for you, and when I do the Q&A recap, I will put the pin on the map so that you can see. Off the top of my head, I can't remember now over in the Vatican where the depot is. I think it might be in the piazza right across from the Vatican, but let me look it up so that I don't tell you the wrong thing. In any case, the Vatican's not that big. When we say Vatican, generally what we're referring to is Piazza San Pietro. So we're really just talking about the piazza in front of the Basilica. You're not going to go into Vatican City proper because it's behind the Swiss Guards. So we're really talking about Prati, the neighborhood called Prati, and Piazza San Pietro. So it's a very, very contained area. So wherever 64 lets you off, because it's either on one side or the other of Piazza San Pietro. So it's not like you're going to have to navigate and that is a huge landmark. You'll see it and you'll just be able to walk in that direction. So it's pretty intuitive.
I can take the next two, I believe.
Okay.
So we have a question about the lounge. How do we book ahead? So there's links that are usually sent out in the Italia Pass promotional emails, or if you're not sure which one those are, if you're already a member with us, usually in the first welcome email, you can find all of the links for the benefits, including the lounge. If you lost that email, if you cannot find it for whatever reason, just feel free to reach out to us. We can also book it directly for you. So either way works. Um, the other one asks, one of your slides mentioned Florence. Are there some other discounts for Florence as we will be visiting it as well? Yes. Well, the tour discounts, they apply to any tours that we have on italiatours.com. Specifically tours, not transfers. We also have transfers, but those are excluded from the benefits. And they can be applied, the discounts can be applied to any city. We have tours in Florence, Rome, of course, Venice, Milan. So any area that you'll want to visit that's listed on the website is eligible for discounts. And Italia Pass specific benefits for Florence are free access to the Accademia Gallery and the Uffizi Gallery. If you have a short amount of time in Florence and you're not sure which one to go to, it's a tough choice. The Accademia is smaller and it has the David from Michelangelo, so it's usually a very popular spot. But the Uffizi is stunning, in my opinion. It's one of the best museums in Europe. So, but it is big, so it takes a longer time to visit. Either way, both are free for our members, so you're free to decide.
I can get this next one. Casey is asking, so the bus is get on and off as much as you want in the 100 minutes. That is correct. So you don't have to worry about zones. You don't have to worry about anything. It's very easy. The 100 minutes, unlimited rides starts from the time that you start your first ride. So the way that they're going to know that is either the time that you purchase your ticket or tap. So if you have a paper ticket, it's going to be the time you validate it. You only have to validate it once. It means you put it in this little machine on the bus, it takes it in, then spits it back out and it stamps the time. From that time forward, you have 100 minutes. And like I said, one metro ride within that. But in terms of buses, yeah, unlimited. Get on and off as much as you want. The next question about tap and go. Each person needs a different credit card on their Apple Pay, or you just mean they have to be purchased separately? So basically, what I'm saying is everyone needs to have their own payment method. For example, when I was in New York not too long ago, you can use the same card for multiple riders on their tap and go system. And that was really easy. You just tap 3 times for my daughters go through, tap, tap, tap. Here in Rome, whatever method it is, so if it's an Apple Pay, I don't know, maybe you have multiple cards on your Apple Pay. That's what I'm talking about. You need to use a separate card because just think of the card, the individual card as your ticket. So they're going to want to see an individual payment card for each. I know it's a little bit inconvenient, but that's just the way they have it set up here. So yeah, each person needs to have their own separate method or their own separate payment. Hopefully that makes sense. Aperitivo times, are they free? Okay, so the time for an aperitivo is generally pre-dinner, so around 6, 6:30, kind of like a happy hour-ish time. I don't know what you mean by are they free? If you mean like are the snacks free? No, like the snacks that come with it are included, but the aperitivo is in fact it's a good question because I didn't mention that, but no, it's not free. The one that was in the picture at Mechanismo, that one's like 13 euros because it's kind of like an abundant and it's like a sit down. If you were to go to like a just like a simple coffee bar and ask for an aperitivo, it depends on how in this historic center you are, but like outside of like the main tourist areas, you could easily get a glass of Prosecco for like 6 euros. And then whatever snacks are included in that. So you do want to specify though aperitivo because if you just say like Prosecco, they'll just maybe just give you a glass with a glass of whatever you're ordering without any snacks to go with it. But if you say aperitivo, they'll know, oh, they want the drink and the snacks that go with it. So, um, yeah, so hopefully that answered your question there. You want to take this next one?
Yes. So this question is the free dinner, where is it? Different locations or changes? So we do have one set restaurant. It is called, oh God, I'm
Il
blanking right now.
Baroccio, I think. No, Il
Yes,
Baroccio.
Il
Mhm.
Barroccio. It's in the heart of Rome, and it's our partner restaurant, so that's where we host the event. Um, I don't know if they plan on possibly getting different locations in the future. I haven't heard anything about it. I know sometimes we always try to mix it up for our members. We try to get new experiences and, make sure that things look a little different from time to time. But yeah, as of now, it's just Il Barroccio, which is
Yeah, and
amazing,
it's
by the
it's
way.
I was gonna say it's been working so well. And if you're curious, Casey, about how other members have enjoyed it, if you go on Google Maps and you look up Italia Pass, there are a lot of reviews. People have given it tons of 5-star reviews, and they've really gone into detail about what they loved about it, and they've shared photos, so you can get more of a feel for what it's like and how people have liked it. Reservations. I think he's asked if reservations or he or she are limited. I don't know. You'd know better than me how many spots are open each evening.
Yes,
I
so
mean, it's
there's usually
12 to 15 or something like that. Yeah. I
just
mean, they wanted
about.
to keep it like small enough to where you can actually chat with different people. Because one of the things that people love is they're interacting and meeting other fellow travelers. That can be really fun. So wanted to make it large enough so it's like a group around a table, but small enough so that it's not overwhelming and impersonal. Because you do have a host there who's kind of guiding you through the dinner and kind of teaching you about the foods and things like that.
This one for food tours. Are the food tours worth it? Places that bring you out to 3 places for drinks and food samples. I would say we have one in particular in Rome. If you're a foodie, yes, they're definitely worth it. And we have one for Rome. It's called Eat as the Romans Do. It's apparently very popular with our travelers. They present pretty much all areas of Roman street food that you can find in the city. So it's also good. There's, little fried things, supli, certain types of pasta, I believe. It's just huge variety. And I've never heard anybody say, "Oh, I haven't enjoyed it. Oh, that wasn't worth it." So if it is something you're interested in, that I would definitely recommend.
Yeah, yeah, agreed. I know that ours, the one that the Italia Tours has crafted, is definitely not a tourist trap because Italia Tours was, built by a local person. So yeah. All right, we're at our 15-minute limit, so we are going to say goodbye to you for now. But if you have any other questions that you think of later on, just come on over to the community and we will answer those. And any other questions that have come up after this in the Q&A, I will answer offline and send to you in the recap that you will receive shortly tomorrow latest. So thank you so much for joining us and have a wonderful trip here to Rome.
Thank you, everyone. Buon viaggio.